Hi there, let me take you back to the year 1956 and the single that started it all, Heartbreak Hotel.
Well, I heard the news, that's good to rockin' tonight. Well, I heard the news, that's good to rockin' tonight.
Hi there and welcome to your Elvis Guide.
Well, since my baby left me, well, I found a new place to dwell. Well, it's down at the end of Lonely Street at Heartbreak Hotel. I'll be so lonely at the time. Although it's always crowded, you still can find some room for a broken-hearted lover. Keep flowing from the desk clerks dressed in black. Well, they've been so long on lonely street. Well, they're so lonely, they pray to die. You got a tale to tell, but just take a walk down lonely street to Heartbreak Hotel. You'll be so lonely, you could die.
The first episode of a new year, and traditionally we're celebrating Elvis' birthday this week. Birthday celebration is going on right now in Memphis, Tennessee, Elvis' hometown. So if you're there, have a lot of fun and, well, spread the news about this channel if you like, but otherwise. And if there's something special you feel you'd share, please use the comments below. Would really appreciate that. As you can see, I'm not in Memphis. I thought of what would be a very special Elvis related subject to cover in this first week of January. And I thought it would be the single Heartbreak Hotel. It's the single that started it all, but it was released in the year that started it all, 1956. And it was recorded only 2 days after Elvis' birthday on January 10 in Nashville. So this episode is all about Heartbreak Hotel and, most important, also about the songwriter Mae Boren Axton. She had a major influence on Elvis Presley's career. First, we have to go back to May 1955. Elvis only recorded That's Alright in July of 1954, and he was touring for not even a year all around the south of the United States. And Elvis had just signed his first manager, Bob Neal. Mae Boren Axton was a teacher, journalist, talk show host from Hendersonville in Tennessee. And she more or less became involved with Elvis, being a publicity assistant. So it happened that in May of 1955, Mae Boren Axton, the author of Heartbreak Hotel, interviewed Elvis, who was on tour at the time in Florida. And let's listen to a little bit of that interview.
Elvis, you are sort of a bebop artist more than anything else, aren't you? Is that what you'd call you?
Well, I never have given myself a name, but a lot of the disc jockeys call me bopping, hillbilly, and bebop. I don't know what.
Sort of a combination of things, but I've seen you perform, and you're a terrific performer. And a lot of my listeners have seen you, and they've heard your records, and they think they're very wonderful. And, of course, you really skyrocketed to fame on That's All Right, Mama. Wasn't that the one?
Well, yes, ma'am. That was the one that got me on my way and everything. It's kind of...
And on Sun Records, I believe.
Ma'am. That's right.
I think that's very fine, and you've started touring the country, and you've covered a lot of territory in the last few months, I believe.
Yes, ma'am. I've covered a lot, mostly in West Texas. That's where my records are hottest. Around in San Angelo and Lubbock and Midland and Amarillo.
They tell me that they almost mob you there, the teenagers. They like you so much. But you know, I happen to know that you have toured all down in the eastern part of the country too, down through Florida and around, and that the people went for you there about as well as out in West Texas. Isn't that right?
Well, I wasn't very well known down here. I'm just with a small company, and my records don't have the distribution that they should have, but...
Well, of course, that's coming. You know, it takes a little bit of time for that, and you know, some of the people who've been in the business 20 years, they're just, it takes that long to get distribution all over the United States, but I think you are one of the fastest rising young stars perhaps in the field. And I know that the people go for you. You know, I watched you perform one time down in Florida, and I noticed that the older people got about as big a kick out of you as the teenagers. I thought that was an amazing thing.
Well, I imagine just the way all three of us move on the stage, we act like we just...
Yes, and we mustn't leave out Scotty and Bill, who really do a terrific job in backing you up.
Well, they sure do. I really am lucky to have those two boys, because they really are good. Each one of them has an individual style of his own, and...
Do you know what I can't understand is how you keep that leg shaking just at the right tempo all the time you're singing.
Well, it gets tired sometimes. I had to stop and rest it, but it just automatically wiggles like that.
Is that it? Just automatically does it. You started back in high school, didn't you? Singing for around public performances for school and things of that sort?
Well, no, I never did sing anywhere in public in my life till I made this first record.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And then you just went right on and to their hearts, and you're doing a wonderful job, and I want to congratulate you on that. And I want to say, too, Elvis, it's been very nice having you in the studio today.
Well, thank you very much, Mae, and I'd like to personally thank you for really promoting my records down here, because you really have done a wonderful job, and I really do appreciate it, because if you don't have people backing you, people pushing you, well, you might as well quit.
Well, you're right there. I do not deserve the credit, though. It's my wonderful friends and listeners all over the country who should be given that credit, because they deserve it, and they're very fine people and very fine friends of yours. I'll tell you what, let's do for those fine friends right now. Let's play your latest number. How about that?
Okay, that's a good deal.
All right.
So from the interview, you can tell that it was really new what Elvis had created with That's All Right. Is it bebop? Is it... Well, what was it? It was a little bit of R&B. It was a little bit of a country style. And Mae Boren Axton really was fascinated with it. And she said to Elvis, she obviously had a great pen, and she said, I'm going to write you your first #1 hit. Well, Elvis probably reacted, sure, and went on. But Mae Boren Axton then introduced Elvis to Colonel Tom Parker. And she initiated the contact between Steve Scholz, the director of RCA Victor, and Colonel Tom Parker. And on November the 21st of 1955, Elvis would sign his, record-breaking contract of $40,000. Right now we would say that's not a lot of money, we would think, for a record contract if you're a real promising star, but back then it was like revolutionary. So Elvis was about to record for RCA Victor. But just before that, Elvis went into the studio, RCA Victor thought, hey, let's re-release all the Sun singles on the RCA Victor label. And that happened in the winter of 1955 and January 1956. Now, I have for you some first pressings. The first pressing of That's Alright Mama on the RCA Victor label from 1955 still. Then the second Sun single, Good Rockin' Tonight, also first pressing from 1955. So these were the very first singles to be released of Elvis Presley nationwide. Of course, first 5 singles were on the Sun label, but on the RCA Victor label. This is Milk Cow Blues Boogie, You're a Heartbreaker, also the very first pressing. Baby Let's Play House, of course, great song. And the 5th single, Mystery Train. So now all 5 singles were re-released by RCA Victor, and RCA thought it was time Elvis recorded his first RCA Victor hit single. And I think it was in winter of 1955 that Mae Boren Axton phoned Elvis and said, I've got this great song written for you, and you should hear it and record it. And Elvis was a little bit reluctant to hear the song, but he finally agreed and heard the song over the phone. And well, he was very, very enthusiastic. He just asked to play it over and over and over again. So probably some 10 times or something. That's what the Peter Guralnick book, The Last Train of Memphis, said about this story. And finally, on January 10, 1956, Elvis went into the studio in Nashville, January 10, 1956, and recorded Heartbreak Hotel right after he recorded I Got a Woman, the Ray Charles classic. That's the first song. And then Heartbreak Hotel, Mae Boren Axton. Now, Mae Boren Axton didn't write Heartbreak Hotel alone. She wrote it together with Tommy Durden, a songwriter from Florida. And it's really interesting because the song really has a great story. The story behind the song initially was that somewhere in a hotel they found a body of a man, and apparently he had a broken up marriage, and he was so sad that he committed suicide. And in the suicide note he wrote, down at the end of Lonely Street. And so the lines Lonely Street ended up in the song. That initially was the story. But some journalists of Rolling Stone magazine only recently discovered that it wasn't really, or what had happened. The story behind the song goes back to 1953. A 25-year-old criminal, Alvin Krolick, handed over a manuscript to a publisher, and the publisher sold the manuscript in episodes to various newspapers all across the United States. And in that manuscript, Alvin Krolick wrote about his criminal background and how much he regretted it. And he said, I was walking down Lonely Street, and maybe this manuscript could help anybody doing the right thing when you're walking down Lonely Street. So that Lonely Street part came from a newspaper story about Alvin Krolick. Of course, Heartbreak Hotel is about a very sad man, like seeing no way out in a hotel room, Heartbreak Hotel. And well, the song really has a great blues feel in it. It has a beat, it has passion, it has sadness, it has it all. And Elvis obviously loved it. Let's watch a version of the song that Elvis performed on September 26 on the Mississippi Alabama Fair and Dairy Show in Tupelo. In Tupelo, Elvis also performed the flip side of Heartbreak Hotel. As you can tell, a 45 of a 45 single had two sides basically, with two songs on it, the A side and the B side, and the A side was the side that turned up in the charts, and I Was the One was the flip side, the other side that, well, was released as well with the hit single. And I Was the One is a diamond, really. He recorded that the following day, January 11, again in the RCA Victor studio in Nashville. Let's listen to Elvis playing I Was the One live on the Mississippi Alabama Fair and Dairy Show in Tupelo, Mississippi.
We'd like to do a song, friends, that this is a sad song, and it's not only sad, it's plumb pitiful, the way we do it. And this song, friends, was the backside of Heartbreak Hotel. On the record, we had the very wonderful Jordan Ayers singing with us, and we'd like to call him back out here to help us do this song called I Was the One with Jordan Ayers.
Heartbreak Hotel was released only 2 weeks after it was recorded. So on January 27, it raced up the charts and ended up on number 1 in the Billboard charts as well as the country and western charts. And it also did great, a number 5 position, on the rhythm and blues chart. So Elvis made a hit single, and it was very unique, that appealed to different audiences. And that was something that was rarely seen before. Good news travels fast. The tremendous success of Elvis in the charts with Heartbreak Hotel, of course, wasn't unnoticed in the United Kingdom and in Europe. So the single even within the same year, the single was released in the United Kingdom and Germany as well. And well, maybe you may not be quite familiar with German singles. I think they're very pretty collectibles. And this is one of the first Heartbreak Hotel singles from Germany. It's not the first pressing, I think it's the second pressing. The little RCA logo in silver is a little bit smaller than with the first pressing, so that tells us a little bit. I think this could be from 1957. And Elvis also was booked to do a tour in Canada in 1957. So it is the only tour Elvis did in a foreign nation, Canada. And there he did That's All Right. It's, well, the sound is lousy and it's only a minute of footage, but I really feel it belongs in this special. So enjoy Elvis in Toronto in the Maple Leaf Gardens, April 2, 1957. Heartbreak Hotel.
The vast cavern of Maple Leaf Gardens darkened, except for the spotlight on Elvis. Elvis, the golden boy, standing there in his shimmering gold suit. Every time he wiggled, they screamed.
Okay, let's check out another great release from 1956 as well, is this extended play. Well, you could see the singles that still had factory sleeves, but the extended play, when the hit single was a success, got a very, very, very pretty sleeve, and that's this one. Elvis Presley Heartbreak Hotel. It's one of my favorite sleeve designs. It's so cool, and even for today's standards, it's very appealing. And it's an extended play that's a little disc like a single, only had 4 songs on it. Elvis played Heartbreak Hotel throughout his entire career. Elvis loved the song. He played the song in 1961 during the USS Arizona benefit in Honolulu on March 25, 1961. He performed the song during the 1968 TV special. He included it in his stage shows in Las Vegas in the 70s. There's footage of Elvis doing Heartbreak Hotel during various rehearsals for Elvis on Tour in 1972. You could hear Elvis do Heartbreak Hotel in Madison Square Garden that summer of 1972. He performed it in the spring in Richmond, for example, in the red suit. And so all across his career, he performed Heartbreak Hotel. Somewhere further on in the 70s, Elvis had a habit of not taking his 50s hits too seriously. But Heartbreak Hotel always got very good treatment because he respected the song, and he obviously felt something for the song. And just like he did with That's Alright Mama, he never, well, blew that song. No, it was always done with much respect, right until the end. In Augusta, in May of 1977, he gave one of his final performances of Heartbreak Hotel. And, well, let's check out that version from the Civic Center in Augusta on May 26, 1977. Okay, that was Elvis in 1977, only some 4 months before he died. Right after he died, in the news reports, Mae Boren Axton gave his view on Elvis as an artist and shared her memories. And let's look at that clip. It's also in my documentary 1977, the year Elvis Presley died. And, well, let's check it out here.
The most joy to the people of any one artist, because he brought everything. He was pop, rock, country. He gave them the release of the tension. The teenagers at that time were under a lot of pressure when he came on the scene. And Elvis's music gave release.
Of course, Heartbreak Hotel turned out a milestone single for Elvis and his career. It inspired the Beatles, John Lennon, George Harrison, Paul McCartney. It inspired Led Zeppelin and all those famous people explained how Heartbreak Hotel changed the way they listened to music. So even That's Alright in 1954 may have set the fire. It was Heartbreak Hotel that made it set the world on fire, basically. Okay, that's it for this week. I hope you have enjoyed my show for this week, and you come back next week when we do a special on, of course, Elvis Aloha from Hawaii. It's the 45th anniversary, and if you're in Memphis right now, have great fun. Share your adventures and impressions in the comments below if you like, and otherwise, well, see you next week. Subscribe to this channel, like this video, and bye.
Elvis has left the building. I I've told you absolutely straight up to this point, you know that he has left the building. He left the stage and went out the back with the policeman, and he is now gone from the building.